What if the peace you are so desperately seeking is not the absence of conflict, but the presence of a war you have been too afraid to fight, a war waged not against the world, but against the version of yourself that has been holding you hostage with promises of comfort that it never intended to keep? Right now, you are crawling through the desert of your own life, dying of thirst, while carrying a canteen full of water that you refuse to drink because someone once told you it was poisoned, and that someone was you. And you believed that lie so completely that you have convinced yourself that suffering is noble, that struggle is virtuous, and that peace is something that must be earned through the exhausting performance of perpetual self-denial. You have been taught that peace is a destination, a mountaintop you reach after a lifetime of climbing, but the mountaintop is a myth, the climbing is a treadmill, and the peace you are chasing is actually standing right behind you, tapping you on the shoulder, waiting for you to stop running long enough to turn around and see that it has been there all along. But you cannot see it because you are too busy running from the very battle that would set you free. The psychology of this tragic misdirection is rooted in the concept of ego-syntonic anxiety, where the fear itself becomes so familiar, so intertwined with your identity, that letting go of it feels like a death. You are not afraid of failure. You are afraid of what you would become if you stopped failing, because the failure has become your story, your excuse, your shield against the terror of unlimited potential. Peace requires you to lay down that shield, to walk into the open field without armor, and to accept that you might be wounded, but you will also be alive. The anxiety that keeps you from peace is not your enemy. It is your bodyguard, a brutal, overzealous bouncer who has been given the wrong instructions. You hired him to protect you from pain, but he is protecting you from pleasure, from connection, from the raw, electric thrill of being fully present in your own existence. The bouncer is tired. He wants to go home. Fire him. The club is your life. You are the only VIP. Walk in. History offers the stark, unforgettable lesson of Siddhartha Gautama, the prince who became the Buddha. He was born into luxury, shielded from the sight of suffering by his father, who wanted him to be a king, not a seeker. Siddhartha inherited a palace, a wife, and a kingdom of comfort. But he was not at peace. The comfort was a cage. He ventured outside the palace walls and saw old age, sickness, and death. He saw that the peace he was promised by his inheritance was an illusion. He did not seek more comfort, he sought understanding. He left the palace, gave up his inheritance, and sat under a tree determined to fight the battle of his own mind. He did not fight with weapons, he fought with stillness. He sat until the demon Mara, the embodiment of fear and desire, attacked him with armies of doubt, lust, and terror. Siddhartha did not run. He did not fight. He touched the earth and said, "The earth is my witness." He reached a peace that was not the absence of Mara, but the presence of a consciousness that could see through Mara's illusions. You have a Mara. He lives in your head. He is the voice that tells you to be afraid, to be small, to be comfortable. Do not fight him. Do not run from him. Sit. Touch the earth of your own conviction. Let him rage. The peace is on the other side of his rage. Let us bring this to the life of a woman I will call Patricia. Patricia was a successful corporate attorney. She had the corner office, the luxury car, the vacation home, and the relentless migraine that accompanied her every waking hour. She was not at peace. She took yoga classes, meditation retreats, and pharmaceutical cocktails. Nothing worked. The anxiety persisted because she was fighting the wrong war. She thought the war was against her workload, her demanding clients, her difficult husband. But the real war was against her own belief that she was only valuable if she was achieving. She had inherited that belief from a father who measured love in grades, and a mother who measured love in appearances. Patricia was a prisoner of achievement. One day, she collapsed in a deposition. The doctor said, "Your body is shutting down. You need to stop." She stopped. She stopped. She quit her job. She sold her house. She moved to a cabin in the woods. The first 6 months were hell. She had panic attacks. She felt worthless. She was in withdrawal from her addiction to achievement. Then, one morning, she watched the sunrise and she felt nothing. No anxiety, no pride, just the warmth on her face. That was her first taste of peace. She had not earned it, she had allowed it. She stopped fighting the war of achievement. She surrendered to the peace of being. You are Patricia. You are in a deposition with your own soul, and it is draining you. Walk out of the courtroom. The case is closed. Now enter the fictional but achingly real story of a warrior named Kael. Kael had fought 100 battles. He was scarred, weary, and famous. Every night he dreamed of a quiet village by a river where he would fish and sleep. He thought that peace was the end of fighting. He won the final war and rode to the village. He bought a small cottage. He fished, he slept, but he was restless. He had no enemy to fight. He started picking fights with the villagers. He broke their fences. He insulted their customs. He was trying to create a war because he did not know how to live without one. The village elder came to him and said, "You are not a warrior who has found peace. You are a warrior who has lost his purpose. The war you must fight is not against the villagers. It is against the emptiness inside you." Kael was confused. The elder said, "Sit by the river and fight the urge to fish. Fight the urge to fight. The peace is not in the village. It is in the stillness you are avoiding." Kael sat by the river for a month. He screamed, he wept, he begged for a battle. None came. Then, one day, he saw the reflection of the moon in the water, and he wept again. But this time, it was not the weeping of a warrior. It was the weeping of a man who had finally stopped fighting. He was not at peace. He was peace. You are Kael. You are fighting ghosts. The ghosts are not real. The river is real. Sit by the river. The neuroscience of peace is not the neuroscience of relaxation. It is the neuroscience of default mode network suppression. The default mode network is the part of your brain that is active when you are not focused on a task. It is the source of rumination, self-criticism, and worry. It is the voice of Mara. It is the ghost that tells you you are not enough. When you are at peace, the default mode network is quiet. The task-positive network, which is engaged in focused present moment activity, is active. You cannot think your way into peace. You must act your way into it. You must engage in activities that demand your full presence: running, painting, playing music, writing, or even washing dishes with full attention. The present moment is the only place where peace exists. The past is a memory, and the future is a fantasy, but the present is the only reality. You're spending 90% of your life in the memory of a past that no longer exists, or the fantasy of a future that may never come. That is not living. That is haunting your own life. Stop haunting. Start living. The dishes are waiting. The sink is the temple. History offers the inspiring story of the Stoic philosopher Epictetus, who was born a slave, crippled, and poor. He had every reason to be at war with the world. Instead, he taught that peace is not found in external circumstances, but in internal judgment. He said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." He was not passive. He was deeply engaged in the battle of his own mind. He fought the battle of interpretation. He refused to see his slavery or his lameness as injustices. He saw them as indifferent facts. He said, "I must be a better man, not a richer man." He found peace in the middle of a war zone. He was tortured, and he was serene. He did not have a canteen. He was the canteen. You're not a slave, but you are enslaved to your interpretations of past slights, present anxieties, and future fears. Break the chains of interpretation. See the events of your life as neutral data. The meaning you assign to them is the prison or the palace. Assign peace. Real life. The story of a man I will call David, who was a veteran of a brutal war. He came home with PTSD. He could not sleep. He could not work. He was in a constant state of hypervigilance. He was fighting the war in his head every single night. He tried therapy, medication, and support groups. Nothing worked. Then he met a veteran who told him, "You are not fighting the war anymore. The war is over. The enemy is dead. You are fighting a ghost." David resisted. He said, "The memories are real." The veteran said, "The memories are real, but they are not present. They are ghosts. You are fighting ghosts." David started practicing mindfulness. When the memories came, he said to them, "I see you. I know you are here, but you are not now." The ghosts did not disappear, but they lost their power. David found peace not by forgetting the war, but by recognizing that the war was over. He had won. He was alive. The peace was in his recognition of the victory. You have your own war, a divorce, a bankruptcy, a failure, a betrayal. The war is over. You survived. The enemy is gone. Stop fighting the ghost. The ghost is just a memory. The memory is not the present. The present is peaceful. Breathe. Fictional. The allegory of the lighthouse in the storm. A lighthouse keeper had been through a terrible storm that had nearly destroyed the tower. He spent the next 10 years reinforcing the structure, building higher walls, and installing stronger lamps. He was constantly preparing for the next storm. He was not at peace. He was in a state of perpetual readiness. One night a traveler asked him, "When will you be at peace?" The keeper said, "When the storms stop." The traveler said, "The storms will never stop. But your tower is now so strong that the storms cannot hurt it. You are not preparing to survive. You are preparing to live. Live." The keeper looked at his tower. He realized he had built a fortress, not a home. He took down some of the walls. He let the wind in. He was afraid, but he was also alive. You have built a fortress of preparation, insurance policies, backup plans, emergency funds, and escape routes. You are so prepared to survive that you have forgotten to live. The storms will come. They always do. Your fortress is strong enough. Take down a wall. Let the wind in. The peace is not in the fortress. It is in the wind. The psychological concept of acceptance and commitment therapy, ACT, offers a profound framework for this journey. ACT does not teach you to eliminate anxiety. It teaches you to accept it and commit to action aligned with your values. The anxiety is not the enemy. The avoidance of anxiety is the enemy. You have been avoiding anxiety by building fortresses, running away, and seeking comfort. The commitment is the act of moving towards what matters with the anxiety. You can be anxious and still speak. You can be fearful and still love. You can be uncertain and still choose. The peace is not the absence of anxiety. It is the presence of choice. You have been waiting for the anxiety to go away before you act. The anxiety will not go away. It is your shadow. The shadow is part of you. Stop trying to cut off your shadow. Walk into the sun. The shadow will follow, but it will shrink. The sun is your purpose. Walk towards it. History gives us the radical example of Mahatma Gandhi, who fought the British Empire not with violence, but with non-violent resistance. He was not at peace because he avoided conflict. He was at peace because he accepted the conflict as a necessary part of the struggle. He said, "Nonviolence is not a garment to be put on and off at will. Its seat is in the heart, and it must be an inseparable part of our being." His peace was not passive. It was the most active, strategic, and powerful force in the struggle for Indian independence. He was arrested, beaten, and fasted. He was not serene in the face of injustice. He was relentless. But his relentlessness was rooted in a peace that came from knowing he was fighting for a just cause. He was not fighting for his ego, he was fighting for his people. Your war is for your soul. The peace is in the rightness of the cause. Fight for something larger than your comfort. The peace will follow. Real life, the daily experience of the parent who is overwhelmed. They have children, a job, a mortgage, and a sense of drowning. They are not at peace. They are in a constant state of reaction. They snap at their kids, ignore their spouse, and escape into screens. They think peace is a vacation, a weekend away. But peace is not a vacation. Peace is a practice. The practice is the moment of conscious breathing before responding to a screaming child. The practice is the 3 seconds of silence before answering an aggressive email. The practice is the act of pausing in the middle of chaos and saying, "This is chaos, but I am not chaos. I am the witness." The parent who practices this does not stop the chaos. They stop the internal reaction to the chaos. They find peace in the middle of the storm. You are that parent. The storm is not going away. The children will still scream. The boss will still demand. The bill will still arrive. The peace is in the pause. Pause, fictional, the story of the king and the jester. A king was depressed. He could not sleep. He was at war with himself. He summoned the royal jester and said, "Make me laugh. I need peace." The jester said, "I cannot give you peace, sire. Peace is not a joke. Peace is a choice." The king was angry. "You are a fool," he said. The jester said, "Yes, I am a fool, but I am a peaceful fool. I am a fool who knows that the kingdom is an illusion and the crown is a weight. You are a king who knows only the weight. Put down the crown. The peace is in the putting down." The king threw his crown at the jester. The jester caught it, put it on his own head, and danced. The king laughed, not at the dance, but at the absurdity of his own seriousness. He saw that the crown was just a piece of metal. The peace was not in the crown. It was in the laughter. You are wearing a crown of responsibility, expectation, and self-importance. It is heavy. Take it off. Laugh at yourself. The peace is in the laughter. The ultimate neurological key to peace is the cultivation of the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest system, as opposed to the sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight system. You are living in a chronic state of sympathetic activation. Your cortisol levels are elevated. Your blood pressure is high. Your digestion is compromised. You are a biological machine running on overdrive. The engine is overheating. The only way to cool the engine is to deliberately, consciously, and repeatedly engage the parasympathetic system. This is not mystical, it is biological. Deep breathing, the slow exhalation that is longer than the inhalation, activates the vagus nerve, which signals the brain to calm down. You can do this right now. Breathe in for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 6. Do it 10 times. Your heart rate will drop. Your mind will quiet. The peace is not a thought, it is a breath. You have been holding your breath for years, waiting for the crisis to pass. The crisis will not pass. The breath is the crisis passing. Breathe. History offers the quiet heroism of the desert fathers and mothers, the early Christian monks who went into the Egyptian desert to confront their demons. They did not go to find peace. They went to find the source of their unrest. They sat in the desert, in the heat, in the silence, and they faced their thoughts. They were not busy. They were not productive. They were just sitting. They discovered that the demons were projections of their own desires. They did not fight the demons. They observed them. They reached a state called hesychia, a deep inner stillness. They did not achieve this by running away. They achieved it by sitting still. You do not need to go to the desert. You need to sit in your living room without the phone, without the TV, without a book. Sit for 10 minutes. The demons will come. Let them come. Watch them. They will leave. The peace is in the watching. Real life, the story of a CEO who was a workaholic. He worked 80-hour weeks. He was a success. He had a heart attack at 55. In the hospital, he realized he had not seen his children grow up. He had not had a conversation with his wife in years. He had been chasing a peace that he thought was in the next deal. The deal was a mirage. He retired. He started gardening. He found that the peace he was looking for was not in the corporate boardroom. It was in the smell of soil, the sight of a tomato growing, the sound of his grandchildren's laughter. He did not become a failure. He became a human being. He found peace in the mundane. You're looking for peace in the extraordinary, but the extraordinary is just an accumulation of ordinary moments. The ordinary moments are the only real moments. The extraordinary is a distraction. Embrace the ordinary. Water the plant. Call the friend. The peace is in the ordinary. We end, not with a conclusion, but with a question that must be answered, not with words, but with a single, decisive, and quiet action taken today. What if the peace you are seeking is not the absence of conflict, but the presence of a war you have been too afraid to fight, a war against the illusion that you are separate from your own peace? The answer is that the war is already over, and you are the victor. But you have been too busy polishing your armor to notice that the battle has ceased. The enemy is dead. The enemy was your own belief that peace is somewhere else. The peace is here, in the mess, in the chaos, in the uncertainty. It is not a destination, it is a posture. It is the posture of a soldier who has laid down his arms and is now planting a garden on the battlefield. The soil is fertilized with the blood of his former fears. The flowers are blooming. They are blooming right now, in the middle of your busy, chaotic, imperfect life. The blooms are small, fragile, and easily missed. Look closer. They are there. They have always been there. You just had to stop fighting long enough to see them. Stop fighting. See them bloom.